Blog Talk Radio.
You are live at the Literary Lounge with your host, Destiny D, bringing you the newest and the brightest of the literary world right to your ear hole. Every Saturday from 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Tune in, listen up, and learn something. This is the spot for new hot authors who are given the opportunity to shine. Each Saturday from 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we will showcase a new author here at the Literary Lounge. We are taking out the time to give all of our literary friends an opportunity to showcase their work. The New Author Spotlight is a platform that allows us to ask up to 10 questions or more to give you, the audience, the most in-depth current information about each writer in their literary piece. We will have a new guest every week. Stay tuned.
Hey, hey, hey! It's your girl, Destiny D, live on WTLR Radio, and you are tuned in to the Literary Lounge, and we are live. Today's date is March 23rd, 2019, and we are on episode 43. Now, special guest for today is going to be none other than a young lady by the name of Miss Nicole Scott. She is the author of the new book, The Chronicles. And we have her for a full hour, and we're going to talk about her new book, where you can find her and the book, and all of that good stuff. So I want you guys to really listen up. Now, first and foremost, I have to thank all of my babies from all over the world for tuning in. I am proud to say that our network is being heard in over 10 countries, guys. So we are doing big things, and I am so proud of how far we have come. So I want to give a quick shout out to our loved ones in Algeria, Israel, Norway, Ireland, the Ukraine, Japan, the United States, Bangladesh, Bulgaria, and just recently added a couple of days ago, the United Kingdom. So we thank everyone for tuning in and listening to the show, and we would love to continue to see your love and support. So with that being said, let's see if we have Nicole on the line. Hello, is this Nicole?
Hey there. Yes.
Hey, sweetheart, how are you today?
I'm great. Thanks.
Awesome. So I wanted to give you an opportunity to let the world know who you are, a little bit about your book and everything. So without further ado, you can go ahead and introduce yourself.
Well, my name is Nicole Scott. I'm a native Houstonian, proud mother of a 13-year-old son. I began writing as a therapeutic outlet when I was about 9 years old. Just started with journaling, then began writing poetry and short stories. And now I've been writing professionally for about 34 years, but the majority of my writing experience involves ghostwriting.
Oh, okay. So you've done a whole lot of work that just you didn't want to shine as the writer of it. You just gave your work away. Is that what you did?
No, ghostwriters are individuals whose job is to write material for someone else who's the named author. So you're compensated for it, and it's just a matter of them feeling more comfortable having someone else write for them.
Oh, so do like they give you the concept and then you just put it together, like what they're looking for, as far as like the genre and stuff like that, and then you just run with the imagination and you feel what they're looking for?
No, actually, they give me their story, and they may transcribe it, or we may meet face to face, and I'll be taking notes, and then I'll just write it. So the writing skill is my expertise, and usually because of the, expansive vocabulary that's required and the intrigue that's required with some of the writing, some of the authors are just not comfortable writing on their own. But it is their work, it's their idea, it's their story. I just write it for them.
Gotcha. How do you like that? Do you prefer the ghostwriting more than writing for yourself, or is the writing for yourself a little bit more gratifying?
Well, the writing for myself is much more gratifying, but it was an income stream that I welcomed because I love to write. Now that I'm a published author, I am continuing to write other things, and I'm hopeful that within the next year or so I'll be publishing something new.
Okay. So where are you from? Give us a little bit of background about where you come from and all that good stuff.
Well, as I said, I'm a native Houstonian. I grew up in a historically black community called Acres Homes, and I've been here primarily all of my life. My family is from this neighborhood, my grandparents, my parents, and I settled here as well.
Okay. Oh, wow, okay. So tell us a little bit about the book that we have on the agenda for today, The Frog Chronicles.
Okay, so the title of the book is The Frog Chronicles, The Aftermath of Sustained Silence. It was published by Shekinah Glory Publishing, which is a local publishing company. And the book details how a betrayal by a family member altered the trajectory of my life. It basically takes you on my journey through the muck and mire of learned helplessness. It is a story of my transformation from self-loathing to self-love. And I trust that what began as a therapeutic outlet for me will inspire others to break their silence. I'm hopeful that the story will generate a mindset shift that offers empathy and compassion for rape survivors. And although I began writing it more than 25 years ago, I procrastinated because I was hoping for a personal happy ending. But recently I became annoyed by the heightened skepticism aimed at sexual assault survivors and angered when people would ask rape survivors what took them so long to speak out. So I felt like now was the time for me to go ahead and tell my story.
Right. And we had just had a discussion about the same topic last week as far as the victim blaming. That has literally become an epidemic when it comes to the person who has been assaulted, the person who's been wronged is being looked at as being the one that did the wrongdoing, which is so wrong because, like, there's so many things that person is going through within their mindset prior to speaking out. So it's like, why would you, like, turn the blame around on the person who has endured the sexual assault? Like, a lot of times you hear them say something to the female to the aspect of, oh, you shouldn't have been by yourself with that particular person, or, oh, you probably dressed a particular type of way, and that warranted the negative response from somebody. But at the end of the day, it's like there's a lot of victim blaming, and there's not enough conviction of the person who done the wrong because they knew that they were doing wrong before they even done it. And I am honestly proud to say that I have read your book. And there were certain areas in there that really vexed my spirit in the very beginning when it came down to you speaking on what happened to you as a child. And I encourage anybody who's reading this book to just definitely read it to the end, because even though it's rough, it is rough in the beginning. It does have moments of lightness. It does have moments of emotional pull and tug. So I definitely encourage anybody to read it. I thoroughly enjoyed your book. So can you give us just maybe like an excerpt of the book that stood out to you the most, that you reflected on so hard?
Sure. Just as you said, if people are saddened, angered, or disgusted, disheartened at the beginning of the book, I pray that they push through so that they can be motivated and encouraged and inspired by the end. So my favorite parts of the book are the end chapters, which are titled The Upshot, The Therapy, The Message, and The Lesson. And I can share an excerpt from the lesson. I'll begin with, I feel strongly that fathers should be the first men to date their daughters. It is important that they are told that they are special, intelligent, beautiful, and talented. This will instill positive self-images early on and will plant seeds of confidence for the duration of their lives. I encourage women to do the same with their sons. This will teach them how a woman should be treated. Remind them to open doors for females and teach them other kind gestures, including offering an occasional suitable compliment. Help them understand that respect is essential for healthy relationships. As children transition into puberty and dating scenarios, it is equally important to initiate conversations about age-appropriate behaviors and expectations. This is also a perfect time to introduce the concept of consent, using role-play scenarios to ensure an opportunity for open dialogue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember that there were like many situations that were in the book, and believe it or not, some of them made me laugh out loud. Some of them, were the typical guy relationship type thing. Oh, so just in case you guys didn't know, like there's a meaty part of the book where Miss Nicole breaks down her encounters with Paul.
I'd like to say something about that. So
yes.
I didn't touch that because I want them to be a little surprised by the direction that the book goes in. In the beginning, it's pretty heavy, but the actual title and book cover represent the metaphorical frog that one would kiss in hopes of meeting a prince. And so I highlighted each and every one of my frogs and my encounters with them, how we met, what transpired in the relationship, etc. But the end goal of telling my story was that after participating in one toxic relationship after another, I came to realize that everyone is not deserving of my body. I read a meme that really highlighted how I feel now, which is it says, be mindful. And then it tells you that things that may be candy to your eyes can be poison to your heart. So you should study their ingredients very carefully before feeding them to your soul. And that's where I am now, but it took so much for me to get to that point. At the end of the day, the goal was to heal and to inspire others to begin the healing process. And I know that a lot of men are quick to say women have trust issues, but what I've learned we actually have is I've seen this pattern of behavior before, and I refuse to go through the same nonsense again issues.
Right. And I mentioned something like that last week as well. When you're dealing with particular people, and you start to see those red flags that you saw in the previous relationship, it's almost like a broken record. And once you hit, I think about 27 or 30, it's like those things are no longer acceptable. when it comes to what you will and will not deal with. And it's like you pretty much kick them to the curb without even seeing the end result because you already know what the end result is. And, like, as time goes on, it's like you can look at a man and tell by the way he walk and the way he talk and the way he carry his head whether or not he gonna be about anything or not. And you can pretty much say, okay, no, I'll take a pass on that one because the way he walk, I can tell it ain't about what I need right now. So I'm just gonna keep moving. And even if he do speak out, but no, baby, it ain't happening, not today. So it's like we tend to kind of like do checks and balances way before it even gets to a bedroom situation, because we're thinking with our head more so than our heart and our body. And it's like we automatically know what we'll settle for and what we won't due to all of the previous encounters that we've had. I mean, I don't know if you feel the same, but let me hear your thoughts on that.
Well, yeah, I agree. So when I meet people now, in the beginning I had heightened skepticism, and I prayed, and I thought about some of the things that my therapist told me, and specifically what he told me around our last session, which was just to break up with the pattern and not just the person. And so when I was getting ready to publish the book, as I indicated before, I procrastinated. I was waiting on a happy ending. By the demise of my second marriage, I realized, okay, that's not going to happen. And I became so motivated by people vilifying sexual assault victims and all of these things that I said, you know what, it's time. And I knew what I needed to do, and I traded in that fear and shame for courage and transparency. I just decided to tell my story. But in telling my story, I realized that I had to take some of the responsibility for those relationships that I engaged in because the red flags were many. And I just proceeded on as though I could change them, I could fix them like I was some great fixer or something. And I should have been focused on fixing Nicole rather than fixing someone else. And yeah, that was my biggest error. So now when I meet people, I realize that our society focuses on instant gratification, on appearance, and not things like intellect, genuineness, kindness, compassion. And so I look for those types of traits. I look for what type of relationship does he have with his children if he and his wife or ex-girlfriend are no longer together. What type of relationship does he have with his mother? What are some of his hobbies? Can he speak in a way that makes me feel like he wants a connection, or does he just have an end goal that, you know, I'm not willing to engage in? And so a lot of times I meet guys and I just joke about it and say, you know what, I'm going to have to put you in the friend zone because you're not going to make it to the end zone. And I just laugh about it to myself because I'm processing these red flags in my head and they don't know what I'm talking about. But it's almost like I'm journaling and charting it. Okay, he hates his mom. Okay, because he doesn't like his baby mama, he doesn't see his kids but once or twice a year. Okay, all he likes to do is go out. He doesn't do anything in the community. He's not engaged with anything that I think would be, you know, a contribution to society. Maybe we wouldn't be equally yoked, whereas equal yoking is not something I ever thought about in all those other encounters with my metaphorical frogs. Now I have a heightened awareness that you do need to have some commonality before you embark on a relationship. And, you know, I have to take responsibility for that. That was my fault.
Yeah. Well, some of the things that you mentioned, I completely agree with. And then there's a couple of things that are like catch-22, so to speak. Like you mentioned, a guy who doesn't get to see his kids for twice a year, or he doesn't really like his mother and this and that. But there are certain circumstances where those things are kind of warranted. And I have seen that in previous relationships where the reason why he didn't like his mother was because she was a drug addict and she abandoned him as a young child. So he has some
No, I
animosity towards him.
absolutely understand those types of things. I'm not talking about situations in which you can justify how they feel. I'm not talking about situations in which they would be putting themselves in harm's way. I'm talking about situations in which they live in the same town. They did not have any type of untoward event during childhood. Their mom was there. Their dad was there. They were raised. Their dad may have left at some point in the marriage, and they just decided that they don't have time for their mother. So even when their family gatherings, they don't go. When it's Mother's Day, they don't go. And there's no substantive reason that they've shared with me during our conversations that would warrant that type of behavior. I'm not talking about situations in which it's in your best interest to avoid the people. I do understand those as well.
Yeah, because I have seen those circumstances. And then I've also seen the ones who put on a great front. I mean, an awesome front. Like, they really try to appeal to everything that you love and like. It's like they are the cookie cut of the molding that you're looking for in a person. They end up being just the nastiest, darkest people once you get them behind closed doors. And I've noticed that there's a lot of people who, like, try to put their best foot forward when they're courting. And then as soon as they think that they've sealed the deal to where this person is in their life, and then all the guards are let down and all the deals come off, it's like, wow, like, you're nothing like what you were when we met, when we were just dating and getting to know each other. Like, when I, invested myself and my heart to you, it's like you was a whole nother person. Like, I've seen that so many different times. But I know
Well, I've done that several times. I've done that. And what I say about that is a lot of times people send their representative to meet you. So they just send their best self. They send their representative, and it's almost like you're going in an interview and you say you type 80 words a minute, you know how to do transcription, you have excellent customer service skills, you can manage multiple tasks and things like that, and then you get there and you've misrepresented your skills. This is what a lot of people do, men and women in relationships. They misrepresent themselves in order to get what it is they want, but you can only mask that for so long, and I call people like that the manipulators. So when the mask comes down and you see the true person, if you're not in too deep, meaning married, you might want to start considering your escape strategy, because those type of people are the most toxic people you can meet, because they intentionally manipulated you to get what it was that they wanted.
Right,
and that's not good.
No, that's not good, because, like, I particularly had, and the crazy thing was, it was my very first relationship, so this was somebody that I gave my first of everything to, and, like, and it was so crazy because I thought he was like the world, you know what I'm saying? And it, like, what hurt me the most was the fact that he was so nonchalant with his lying that it just totally destroyed me, to the point to where I gained all kinds of weight. I was eating all the time, like I was stress eating, and he even had the audacity to take me to other women's houses and tell me that this was his Aunt Gwen, this was his cousin Princess, this was, and I was literally meeting these females not knowing that they were women he was sleeping with at the time. One he was using for, he was using to drive her car. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it floored me that he would lie to me with such a straight face. Like, I would have did better if I had known up front. Not saying that I would have condoned what he was doing, but at least I would have known.
No, I understand what you're saying.
cut that off and we just be friends and you could do whatever you want because you're not answering to me type of thing. But it's like the level of betrayal was just so hard. And I actually had a different lady from those two that lived in Newport News and literally came to my job and was like, this is my man. Like, who are you? And, that was like the ball game for me when it came to relationships for a very long time. Like, I went into a hermit shell because I was just so distraught with that particular situation. So it's like that has been like one of my worst moments when it came to relationships. And like right now to this day, I still have that
residual effect of that relationship. I understand. So one of my frogs, I know since you read the book, that I had a similar situation with the frog. And I think those types of people are just classic narcissists. I read another meme that said something about people that have diabetes. They just lie to the point that they begin to believe their own lies, and they don't believe that you will ever call them on it. And so what we do in relationships is we make excuses for those types of people, and I've been guilty of that. And I dated a guy. We had dated for 6 months, and I found out he was living with a woman the whole time, and that she was 7 months pregnant by the time I discovered it. And I understand what it feels like to be flabbergasted, but at that point, I didn't want to have anything to do with him anymore because that scale of lying is dangerous, and it puts people in a situation, that they can't even defend themselves because they're so flabbergasted. It just floors them that this is going on. It's like you're in a movie, a Lifetime movie or something. What is going on? And it takes a long time to recover from that, a long time.
It does. It really does, because it's not so much as the lie. It's the physical toll that it puts your soul and your mind in, because you've dealt with this person on a personal level and you've opened up channels that only they had opened. So it's like you made your heart available to this person only to have it stabbed and cut out. So, yeah, it does. It hurts for a very long time. It's residual, and it's so residual to the point to where you could be 40 and still think about how that person did you, and it's just as clear as it happened the day before. And I was actually shocked about that particular fraud and the fact of how you were able to go about things with, because normally those situations don't go away. A beef between like you and the other party, and then like she come after you, and it could have definitely went left like real quick, especially once both of y'all found out the situation. I have seen where one retaliated against the other and it didn't go well for the other one. Like I see it on Facebook, like sometimes like where they a girl with her face all busted up talking about my boyfriend's wife just found out about our relationship and this is what she did to me or something like that. And
yeah, but you don't know what? I'm going to tell you, that kind of stuff, when I look at that, it's just nonsense and shenanigans to me. So I always try to be the voice of reason. I am the person that my friends always say maintains a calm, cool, collected demeanor. I thought about the situation, Destiny, and I put myself in her shoes. So there was no way that I was going to continue to be involved with this individual. At some point, you have to have some integrity and maintain some dignity. And what I learned from that situation is that it's happened to so many people. One of the things that I hope that people get from the book is that they're not alone. I had to be very transparent and authentic in my storytelling so that people could say, oh, that happened to me, or oh, that happened to my sister, my aunt. And what you said about the eating, I even touched on that. There are a host of commonalities when people have been abused in some way, not just sexually, emotionally, verbally, physically. All abuse is abuse, and it takes a toll on its victims. So the self-destructive behavior, self-esteem issues, weight problems, food and other addictions, those things are common. But the thing that people need to understand is once they start getting the help they need to heal, then they recognize these patterns and they're able to stop them. When you're in the throes of it, you just can't see it.
Right. And you know what? Like, I honestly, wholeheartedly did not get any kind of therapy. Like, there was no means of me talking to anybody or getting my feelings out. It was more so me crying through crocodile tears and my mama holding me and hugging me and rocking me until I started crying. And like after the phase started, it was like my dad kind of like just made me so mad that I went on like one of those starvation type things because he got to me one day. I was sitting in the living room. I had a whole plate of food in my lap, and he pretty much was like, "Dang, every time I see you, you got a plate," and it just hurt my feelings so bad that I just pushed it and I didn't eat for like 2 weeks. And he was like, "Okay, now you done had enough time where you ain't eating. You're looking sick. Go and eat." But you know,
right.
Like shouting at me to kind of break me.
That's why therapy is so important, though, Destiny, and it's important because you need an outside person, not someone who you're emotionally attached to talk about your innermost feelings. And when you're able to do that, they can help you develop the coping mechanisms that you need to get on the other side of healing. When you just surround yourself with family and friends, you know, they're mad, they're hurt, you know, they don't necessarily have the capability of telling you what you need to hear. But that's what we do as a people. Very few people in our race seek therapy, and it's because they feel that shame or they feel like that means that there's something wrong with them, and that is not the case. When you know that you're dealing with something that is not allowing you to be your best self or live your best life, you need to address it.
Yeah, and that's a good thing that you mentioned that, because I have seen so many people who could have gotten the help that just did not, and it just sent them in a downward spiral, and it kind of like put them in the mindset of self-harm and stuff like that. And it's not a good road to go down. But I'm thankful that I came from a strong background of strong women who went through stuff and endured through stuff and still was able to like come out on top. I come from a line of women who never really told anything about what was going on behind closed doors, like, because they felt like it was nobody else's place to know those particular things. And, you know, it wasn't until recently that my grandma sat down with me and she was like, y'all ain't know nothing about Jimmy. And I had a hard time, but didn't nobody know my business because I didn't put it out there. And I dealt with stuff, and then I got to the point to where I wasn't going to take it no more. And then that's when I told his butt up one good time, and he left me alone. You know, so a lot of the women came up. There was no refuge. There was nobody to talk to. There might have been somebody that would have showed them a recipe for a good sweet potato pie with some eggplants in it.
Right, exactly. And see, here's my thing about that. I, too, come from a family of really strong, opinionated black women. And even with that, the individual who molested me and raped me was a family member. And by the time I started talking about it, which is why the book says The Aftermath of Sustained Silence, he was already dead. But I discovered that he had molested 2 or 3 people before me and then another person after me. So that is one aftermath of sustained silence. Had anybody spoken out, all the other people would not have been impacted. But I can't tell you why they didn't. I can tell you that I didn't, because I had every confidence that if I had spoken out, it would have resulted in his murder. So in a sick, twisted way, I was protecting my molester. And so there's
And you
all
know
these
what?
different factors that make people them for it. They should just try to understand and learn from it and move forward and make sure that that type of silence is broken and that children and young adults understand what to do in those situations. Because that
Right.
is one thing that I really learned that we could have done differently as a family.
Yeah, and it's kind of weird that you mentioned that, but believe it or not, it's more common than you think as far as the sexual predator being a member of your family. And like I said before, there's a lot of victim blaming and not enough prosecutions of the actual person who did the wrongdoing, who were old enough to know better, and they did it anyway. That, like, we had an uncle who had that particular problem. Now, I don't know whether or not if he actually went through the act of taking someone's stuff.
Sexually, right. Sexually.
I'm not sure as far as to the extent of what he done, but I do know what he did to me. But it was so, like, nonchalant, like, because it was one particular day we went, he asked did I want to go to the corner store, because the corner store was, like, maybe 5 minutes up the road, and he promised me candy. Mind you, I'm, like, maybe, like, 11, 12. So, candy is, like, all the rage when you that. And while we was riding down the road, he grabbed me in between my legs, and I looked at him like, what is you doing? And he was like, oh, you be all right? So I grabbed him in between his legs. But when I grabbed it, I turned and I heard something pop. And he swerved on the road. He was like, I won't do it again. So he stopped, and he never did anything else to me. But the crazy thing, like how I mentioned with the victim blaming, right? So I went back to my family straight away. And I was like, Uncle Funny did this to me, and da-da-da, and I did this back. And they was like, well, didn't nobody tell you to get in the car with him? Who told you to go to the store? And I'm like, wait a minute. This is my family member. This is like my sister's brother. Like, this is my grandma's brother. Like, this is my great uncle. Like, why shouldn't I feel safe enough to ride to the corner store to
should have
extra stuff happening? Right. So I was like, this is not my fault. And so it was like the second time he did something, he did it to my older sister, which she, like, actually took up, like, Hapkido and Taekwondo and all that good stuff. So she, like, flipped him off of the front porch. She kicked his butt, literally off my grandma's front porch. I don't know what he did to her. I don't know if he grabbed her or whatever, but I know she rocked his butt and knocked him off of the porch.
And see,
so
the fighting and everything is fine to get them off of you initially, but to be some dialogue amongst the family, because typically when that happens, it's someone that you were raised to trust and love and respect and honor. So when it happens, either you go into fight mode or flight mode, but there needs to be a conversation so that everybody can be on high alert. And that's what we don't do, because we do get blamed. If you look at society's tendency to vilify these survivors, they ask them, what were you wearing and how many drinks did you have and were you dancing suggestively? All of that is irrelevant.
Right, because nobody
and when parents ask, nobody's asking for that, and no means no. So when you ask those questions, you're shifting the guilt to the victim as opposed to the perpetrator. And that's what our society does, and that's what needs to change.
Exactly, and I feel wholeheartedly about the same exact thing. And I hate that, like you said, the victim blaming is so prominent. Like they say, oh, well, you shouldn't have been dressed that kind of way, or oh, you shouldn't have been dancing that kind of way, or you shouldn't have been by yourself at that time of night in an area like that because you opened yourself up and you made yourself prone for attack. No, you should have been okay with whatever you was wearing. Because I know nuns who wear long robes that get raped by the priest. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter what you
Exactly. A rapist is a rapist. And sometimes when it's a pedophile, it's something that I learned when I studied psychology that they can't control. So if you know that there's a pedophile in your midst, then you need to have some dialogue about it. That's why they have people register as sex offenders. That's why, people need to be more motivated to do something and say something so that people can be aware of their environment and people can be aware of the behavior. When that happens, then it minimizes the behavior. When you confront those people, then it minimizes the behavior because they know, okay, this is not going to fly over here, so I shouldn't do this over here. But sadly, what happens is that they don't have control over it, so they do it somewhere else.
Yeah, they change the hunting
and
ground.
So it's going to happen no matter what.
Right, unless they seek help, unless they get help, or unless somebody rock their knot and change their mindset, they catch another charge. See, that's the thing. And then a lot of people, they move into a good neighborhood, they think, and they, this is a beautiful area, the house is pretty, this, that, and the other. And then, like, you go on the registry and look for sex offenders in your location, and they pop up like wildfire. Like, I lived in a little town in Virginia for the almost like 30 years. I lived on the same street. You know what I'm saying? I knew everybody on that street from one side to the other, from the top to the bottom, because like all of my family lived on the left side, going all the way down, and then all of the other people who were just in the neighborhood lived on the right side. And I could go by each house and tell you who lived in it. And when I did the sex offenders listing to see how many were like right there on my street, the numbers were appalling. And I was like, but that's Mr. This That. And that's Brother This That. And I'm like, they registered sex offenders and they live on the same street. And, it made my whole mind change because I have nieces and nephews and I have sisters and cousins. Oh, they probably don't have an idea that these pedophiles or these perverts or these people who have been put on the registry live right across the street or live right down the road. Or, you know what I'm saying? They're your neighbors. You might have walked over there nonchalant when they first moved into the neighborhood and brought him a casserole. And you never even knew that he had that on his record. So it's like you really don't know who these people are because a lot of times you don't know until you're stuck in that situation where you're actually being assaulted. And I think that's
and
very
I'm gonna
bad.
Tell you,
yeah.
It's very, very bad. But on the flip side, there are people listed as registered sex offenders who actually were involved with a consensual relationship, and they get prosecuted. So it's like you have to do your homework, do your research. I know people personally who had consensual sexual relationships, and their parents got mad when they discovered it and filed charges against the person, and for the rest of their lives, they're registered sex offenders. Then you have these people who are in and out of prison for the same offense, and they're registered, and they move into the neighborhood, and they're almost invisible to the neighbors. So when you do your research, you need to do your due diligence and find out the circumstances, what's going on, make a decision about whether you want to discuss it with your family and friends and notify people, because there are so many different elements to that criminology and whether or not, these people actually committed rape, that you got to kind of look into it before you react. But once you've looked into it, you definitely need to notify everyone that you can, because you will be so guilt-ridden if something happens and you knew.
Yeah,
that's the problem that I see. People know and they don't say a word, and then it happens to someone, and then there's all this shock and outrage, but someone could have prevented it if they had just opened the dialogue and talked about it.
Yeah, and like you said, there is a lack of dialogue. There's a lot of victim blaming, but there's no rectification when it comes to what these people are doing. And like I mentioned last week, these people are sick and they need treatment as well. They need somebody that they need to go to and they need to speak to. And I also mentioned last week that, when you're dealing with a situation like this, and especially if you're a child, and if you feel like whatever that's going on between you and a family member or a friend is like, it don't feel right, most times it's not. And if they're trying to push the envelope as what you offer them as far as your body or sexual favors or something like that, you need to tell somebody. You need to let it be known so that stuff can be nipped in the bud and that person can be rectified. Because if you go inside and telling how far, that attack can go or what you can endure. So I encourage anybody that may be going through something similar to that, please speak to somebody. And not only that, but if you go to somebody in confidence and you tell them what's going on and they blatantly disregard what you're saying, stop talking to that person and go to somebody else. If you keep telling somebody different until somebody do something about it, and if you can't get anybody to listen, dial 911. Let the police handle it, because at the end of the day, regardless of who it is, whether it's family or somebody up the street from you or a perfect stranger, they need to be brought to justice for what they're doing. It needs to be told. So speak up.
Exactly.
Don't just be quiet and endure it, because it's not going to end well. And I when you first said, like, back a little while ago, and you was talking about how your patience and your mindset and all of that stuff is a whole lot more calmer, and you can rationalize and do all of those things. I kind of like chuckled to myself, like, inwardly, because I remember a certain excerpt from the book where you had one of those moments like that was on that Tyler Perry movie where that girl flipped him over in the tub.
Exactly. And you know what I learned from that? I've only sought vengeance twice in my life. And once was against my perpetrator and once was against a particular frog. And what I learned from that in my walk is that is not healthy for me. I've had to apologize profusely and pray and ask God for forgiveness because I want to be forgiven for my sins. And so what I've learned is that there are people and resources and situations that can address those things. And I also discovered that karma is real. So I look at situations, I reflect on the book, and I've asked myself a lot of times, how can someone be okay knowing that they destroyed somebody emotionally or mentally or, whatever. Right. But I realized that is not for me to worry about. What I need to do is focus on being my best self and living my best life and being genuine and being kind and being compassionate and asking God for discernment so that he can keep those types of people away from me. Because I don't want to be a person that's so negative or jaded that I don't see my prince when he's right in front of me. I still have an open mind about those things, but I know that now I need to ultimately meet somebody worthy of my kindness and my honesty and my, faithfulness, as opposed to just grabbing the first dude that passes in front of me and offers a compliment and saying, okay, I'll give you a try. Yeah, it's no more of that. That's over with. That girl is dead. I gave her a funeral, but I still struggle with vengeance. And it's just not something that my spirit will allow me to do. But, yeah, I do know why they have episodes of Snapped. I do understand it. I can relate to it. But I just choose not to be that girl.
Girl, when I read about that frog, oh, my goodness.
And you can't say anything because you have to leave some intrigue so people will go out and get the book. And they'll read it so that they can have the same reaction that you had. Now, oh, my God.
Yeah, oh, my goodness. Like, that's all I kept saying. I was like, oh, no, oh, my God. But when I first started talking to my other half about your book, and I was telling him, and he was like, "Oh my God, please don't tell me," because he loves children like so much. Like he was in the military, he got 2 kids of his own, but in some of all of that stuff, his wife, or should I say ex-wife, took the kids and moved away, so he really didn't have the opportunity to build with his kids like he really wanted to. So he kind of like took on like all the children of the neighborhood and whatever female
right.
that he
So
dealt
he
with.
definitely didn't want to hear about something like that happening to a child.
So it really touched him. It rocked him to his soul. He was like, "Baby, please, I can't do it. I can't take it." And I understood where he was coming from because he's a genuine person and he's a loving man. And you can definitely tell the difference between those who care and those who don't. And, you know, I encourage anybody who has endured anything or needs some kind of a therapeutic outlet or just want to read this book, like, please give it a chance. First I was like, it's kind of hard to say it was a good book because of the beginning and what happened. But as I pushed my book, I was like, it's a really good book. And I really hearing like your stories and the things that you dealt with and the reflection and all of that good stuff. So I really do appreciate you for being strong enough to actually voice all these things. I actually even applaud you to the point to where, you know, you mentioned that you give other people that come into your future the opportunity to read the book just to get a backdrop on everything that happened to you so they know what to say and what not to say or what to do and what not to do when it comes to you. Because this is
actually, you know, what I do is I want them to know me. I don't want to send a representative. So I want them to see this is my life. My life is literally an open book because I wrote a book about it. I think it would help men to read it because they can maybe see a part of them in a previous relationship and understand how it impacted the person. I hope that they could push through it, but I have a personal friend, one of my closest male friends, who's unable to pick it back up and stopped around chapter 5 and 6. My only real request to the readers who purchase the book is push through because there is a blessing in the less. Push on through and understand that I am fine now. I am happy. I'm healing. I'm hurting sometimes, but overall, I am fine because I am on the journey to healing, and that is the journey that makes everything that I experienced worthwhile.
Right. So with that being said, I want you to give out any information that you think anybody should know, like if you have a book signing in the near future, the event that you might be going to in the next couple of months. Please share all of that information with us, please.
Okay. I do have a few more interviews scheduled. I'm really excited about the prospect of receiving additional requests for speaking engagements and other interviews. I have a television interview airing on Discover a New Future, which can be found at PrincetonTV.org on March 27th at 9:30 p.m. Eastern, and again on March 28th at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. I have been selected as Book of the Month for 2 book clubs, one in April and one in June. And later this afternoon, I'm going to one of those book events to deliver books to the group that selected me. I have been just getting to the point to where momentum is building for the book, and I'm so grateful. But I welcome any questions, comments. I would like to be able to provide resources to people if they need help. I can be reached at the Frog Chronicles book at gmail.com. On Facebook, I'm just Nicole Scott. On Instagram, I'm author Nicole Scott. I welcome any questions, any requests, anything like that, because part of the mission of the book is to promote the dialogue for healing. So I'm hopeful that I'll hear from some people and be able to continue to do what I believe is my life's work.
Right, right. That's so awesome. And you have like where is the book being sold and how much does it run for?
So the book is for sale on Amazon. It's $16.99. On Kindle, I believe it's $9.99. If someone has a special situation, sometimes I run promotions where I discount the book and ask them just to promote me on social media. So those types of requests should come to me through my email, which again is thefrogchroniclesbook@gmail.com. But I'm willing to do everything I can to keep the momentum going and to share the book and hopefully help some other people.
Oh, awesome. That is so great. And I'd like to just take a moment and really thank you for what it is that you do, for being on the show and giving people just a little taste of who you are. And I really do applaud you wholeheartedly for being the strong woman that you are, to be able to tell your story and endure, because I know that it is very, very difficult to take what you have been through and put it in writing. And there's a lot of moments in that book where I felt like there may have been tears shed as you wrote. And it's like I look at this book as a means of therapy, to get all of those feelings and things out so that you don't have to, like, literally reflect on them anymore. They're, like, taken from your heart and put on paper, and you can actually, like, set them to the side without being worried about them festering on the inside. So I really do applaud you for your strength and being able to actually put this book together. Like I said, I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I hope to see, more work from you in the near future. Do you have any irons in the fire as far as new books coming out?
Yes, I'm eternally grateful for this opportunity. I do have a children's book that's already been written. I haven't titled it, and I haven't begun to promote it because I'm trying to actually see this book through. But I have begun the process of writing some additional works. Aside from the children's book, my next book will probably be a work of fiction, and I'm just going to tap into different genres and just continue writing and hopefully continue blessing others.
Okay. Well, if you have anybody you want to give a shout out to, now is the time.
Well, I want to give a shout out to all my friends and family who initially supported the book and promoted it in a way that allowed me to feel comfortable with telling my story. I think that, as you said, it's hard to shed every ugly layer of your life, but I did it with enthusiasm because I had so much support from my friends and family. The best news of it all is that at the end of the day, I don't have any more skeletons in my closet. And so I'm so grateful for the people who cried with me, laughed with me, kept me encouraged and kept asking me, when's the book coming out? When's the book coming out? Because little do they know, they just propelled me to go ahead and finish what I had started. And I just want to give a shout out to my family in Houston, my family and friends in Los Angeles, Chicago, and all over the country who have just pushed me and shown me that this was worthwhile, that they love the fact that I was courageous enough to tell the story, and that they are going to tell everybody that they come into contact with about what it did for them.
Well, with that being said, we have ran through our 4-hour interview with Miss Nicole Scott, and I really want to thank you for taking out the time to be on the show, because as I say on every show, this show would not be anything if you were not here. So we really appreciate you, and we hope that everything that you're trying to do with your literary career blossoms and grows into something major. And just don't forget about us. And we'll continue to allow
your actual interview to be aired on the radio. So like even though we're live right now, you'll be able to follow the link that's on her page and on her timeline and also mine, and you'll be able to hear the full hour interview as many times as you would like to hear it. It'll also be available on our YouTube channel. So just in case if you're not able to get to the link that's provided, we'll also have it on our YouTube channel. So I want to thank you, and I hope that everything goes well and you have a blessed day, okay?
Okay, thank you so much, and you be blessed as well.
All right. Take care, sweetie.
You are live at the Literary Lounge with your host, Destiny D, bringing you the newest and the brightest of the literary world right to your ear hole. Every Saturday from 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Tune in, listen up, and learn something.
All right, guys. You guys be sure to tune in next week. We'll have another author on the Literary Lounge by the name of author Thomas J. So you guys make sure you tune in next week for another special guest.
This is the spot for new hot authors who are given the opportunity to shine. Each Saturday from 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we will showcase a new author here at the Literary Lounge. We are taking out the time to give all of our literary friends an opportunity to showcase their work. The New Author Spotlight is a platform that allows us to ask up to 10 questions or more to give you, the audience, the most in-depth current information about each writer in their literary piece. We will have a new guest every week. Stay tuned.